The night shift was always quiet. The long halls of the alien embassy shimmered with soft blue lights, and the cleaning drones floated silently by. But the only human janitor in the building, Rian, preferred to work alone. He moved slowly with his mop and bucket, humming a lullaby his little daughter used to love. Rian was an ordinary man. He had no special rank, no medals, and no power. He had once worked as a mechanic on a cargo ship, but after the war ended, he lost his job. The only work he could find on the alien planet Tirith was as a cleaner in the Grand Embassy, where the imperial family of the Xylan Empire sometimes stayed. He did not complain. The job gave him enough credits to send messages home to his daughter, Lena, who lived with his sister on Earth. Every night, before starting work, he recorded a small message for her that night. As he scrubbed the silver tiles of the East Corridor, he whispered, "Hey, Lena, Daddy is working again. You remember the bubbles we used to make at the park? I still have the same bottle in my pocket. I hope you are sleeping well." He smiled to himself and pressed the small toy in his pocket. It was old, scratched, and half empty, but it reminded him of home. The embassy halls were huge, built with alien metal that glowed like water. The ceilings reached so high that his mop handle looked tiny under them. On one side were wide glass doors that opened to the royal gardens, where glowing plants moved like slow waves. The night air smelled clean and sharp, like rain before a storm. Rian's steps echoed softly as he cleaned near the crystal elevator. It was almost midnight when he heard something, a sound like crying. He froze. The sound came again, gentle and broken, like a small voice trying not to be heard. It came from the garden. Rian hesitated. The garden was off limits for staff at night. Only the royal guests could enter. But the sound was not from a guard or a grown person. It was the soft crying of a child. He left his bucket behind and followed the sound. The garden gate slid open with a low hum. Blue light from the trees fell over his face as he stepped inside. There, beside a silver fountain, sat a small figure wrapped in a long silver cloak. Her shoulders shook with every sob. Rian stopped a few steps away. "Hey there! Are you all right?" he asked gently. The figure turned. Under the hood was a face pale as moonlight, with faint blue patterns glowing under her eyes. Her ears were pointed, and her hair floated lightly as if carried by air. Rian recognized her at once. She was the young princess of the Xylan Empire. His heart jumped. He had seen her face only once during an event weeks ago. Her name was Princess Sorel. She was said to be shy and quiet, barely speaking to anyone since her father, the Emperor, had fallen ill. Rian quickly bowed. "Your Highness, I am sorry. I did not mean to disturb you. I heard you crying and thought you might need help." The girl sniffed and looked away. Her small hands clenched the edge of her cloak. "Go away," she whispered. Her voice was soft but trembling. "You are a human. You will tell the guards." Rian shook his head. "No, I will not tell anyone. I only wanted to know if you were hurt." She stayed silent. The night breeze moved her hair. Her glowing patterns faded dimly as she tried to hide her face. Rian slowly sat on a stone bench nearby. He kept some distance so she would not feel threatened. "You know," he said quietly, "when my daughter cries, she never wants to talk either. But sometimes I just sit near her until she stops." Princess Sarah looked at him confused. "You have a child?" "Yes. Her name is Lena. She likes to blow bubbles. She says the bubbles carry her wishes up to the stars." Cyril blinked. Her tears slowed. "What are bubbles?" Rian smiled. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small plastic bottle. "They are tiny things made from air and soap. They float and shine, and they do not last long, but they make people smile." The princess tilted her head slightly. "You can make them." Rian nodded. "Would you like to see?" Cyril hesitated but gave a small nod. He opened the bottle, dipped the wand inside, and blew gently. The first bubble came out shaky and small, then another, then a dozen more. They rose in the cold garden air, catching the blue light from the glowing trees. The princess gasped softly. The bubbles reflected her own glowing patterns and sparkled like tiny moons. She reached out to touch one, and it popped gently on her finger. A small laugh escaped her lips. Rian smiled wider. He blew again, making a cluster of bubbles that drifted toward the fountain. The reflection of hundreds of tiny spheres danced across the silver water. They are so fragile, Cyril said softly. Yes, Rian replied, but that is what makes them beautiful. You cannot keep them, so you enjoy them while they last. The princess watched, her tears gone. For the first time, her face looked peaceful. Can I try? She asked. Rian handed her the wand carefully. Her fingers were smaller than his, delicate and glowing faintly. She took a deep breath and blew. A small bubble formed and floated up, wobbling until it burst near a leaf. Cyril giggled. I made one. You did, Rian said. Not bad for a first try. The princess tried again and again, and soon, bubbles filled the air around them. The garden lights shimmered through them, painting colors across the night. For a while they both forgot who they were. One was a janitor, tired and lonely. The other was a princess, burdened by silence and duty. But at that moment, they were just two souls watching small orbs of light drift away. Rian looked at her smile and thought, how much she reminded him of Lena. Maybe loneliness looked the same. Whether on Earth or in the royal palace of an alien world, when the last bubble popped, Cyril handed him the wand back. Her voice was quieter now, but calm. Thank you, human. I feel lighter. Rian bowed slightly. I am glad, Your Highness. She frowned. Do not call me that when we are here, she said. Just Cyril, he nodded. All right, Cyril. She smiled again, a small but real smile. Then she turned her gaze toward the tall tower at the far end of the garden. You should go before the guards see you. Rian stood. Will you be all right? Yes, she said. I think so. He nodded and quietly left the garden, his heart warm and heavy at once. What he did not know was that someone had been watching high above. Inside the transparent tower, the Empress of Xylan. Cyril's mother stood in silence. She had awakened earlier because of her daughter's distress. The royal censors had alerted her that the princess had left her room. She had expected to find her daughter crying again in the garden as usual. But instead, she had found her laughing. Laughing because of a simple human blowing soap bubbles. The Empress's sharp eyes followed Rian as he disappeared down the corridor. She was known across the stars as cold and wise, but at that moment, she felt something unfamiliar. Curiosity. Later that night, she asked her advisor, Who is that human in the garden? The advisor bowed. A maintenance worker. Majesty. His name is Rian. He cleans the lower halls. The Empress turned toward the window again. The faint glow of burst bubbles still hung in the garden air. Interesting, she said quietly. She had seen many humans during the peace talks, some proud, some fearful. None had ever walked freely into the royal garden. None had ever made her daughter smile. As Rian finished his shift and packed his tools, he had no idea that the Empress herself now knew his name. He only thought of how the princess had smiled and how her laughter had echoed in the cold night. When he reached his small room in the workers' quarters, he sat by the window, opened his communicator, and recorded another message for Lena. Double quotes, Hey, sweetheart, he said softly. I met someone tonight who reminded me of you. She liked the bubbles too. He smiled at the small screen. Maybe tomorrow, I will show her how to make the big ones. You would like her, Lena? She laughs like you. Outside, the alien dawn began to rise, painting the sky in silver and violet. The embassy's towers glowed like crystal spears against the light. Rian leaned back in his chair, tired but peaceful. He did not know his simple kindness had been seen by eyes that ruled worlds. And somewhere in the royal chambers, the Empress watched the recording of the garden again on her crystal screen. The image of a human blowing bubbles and her daughter, smiling, filled the room with quiet light. For the first time in many years, the Empress whispered to herself, Perhaps humans are not as fragile as they seem. The night ended, but something had begun. Something small, simple, and shining like a bubble that refused to burst. Morning came to the great halls of the Xylan embassy. The silver walls glowed softly as alien suns rose above the misty skyline. Rian walked through the corridors with his cleaning cart. His eyes still heavy from a short night of sleep, he kept thinking about what had happened in the garden. The princess's laughter, her small hands catching bubbles in the air, and the way she had asked him to call her by name. It felt like a dream that did not belong to his world. He told himself to forget it. The royal family had their own lives. He was only a janitor. If the guards found out he had entered the garden without permission, he could lose his job. Still, when he passed near the garden gates again, he slowed down for a moment. The flowers were still glowing faintly, and a few drops of bubble soap lay on the stone floor, shining under the light. He smiled quietly before pushing his cart forward. By midday, Rian was mopping the great hall when a tall figure approached. The alien wore black armor and a silver badge on his chest. His eyes glowed faint green, and his voice was calm but strong. "You are Rian, the human janitor?" the guard asked. Rian straightened. "Yes, sir. That is me. You are to report to the royal tower at once." Rian froze. "The royal tower?" "Yes, the Empress herself has summoned you." "Follow me." Rian felt his heart skip. He looked down at his worn gloves and stained uniform. "Sir, I think there is some mistake." "I am not." The guard's expression did not change. "There is no mistake." "Come." Rian nodded slowly. His hands trembled as he placed his mop aside. He followed the guard through long corridors lined with crystal pillars and floating lanterns. Every step echoed in the silent air. They entered a tall elevator made of clear glass that lifted them up through the embassy's shining levels. From above, the city of Tarath spread like a sea of silver and blue. Ships drifted across the skies like glowing birds. When the doors opened, Rian stepped into a grand hall filled with soft white light. The air smelled of rare flowers and strange metals. At the end of the hall stood a tall woman dressed in flowing robes of silver and gold. Her hair floated around her like threads of light. Her eyes were calm and deep, glowing with the same pale blue as her daughter's. The Empress of Xylan. Rian bowed quickly. "Your Majesty, forgive me. I did not know I was to appear before you." The Empress studied him quietly. Her voice was soft but carried great power. "You are Rian from Earth, the one who works the night shift." "Yes, Majesty." She took a few steps closer. "You entered the royal garden last night without permission." Rian felt a chill run through him. "I heard crying, Majesty. I did not mean to intrude. When I saw the princess, I only wished to help. I am sorry if I caused offense." The Empress looked at him for a long moment, then said, "You made her laugh." Rian blinked. "Majesty, I watched the security recordings," she said. "My daughter has not laughed since the Emperor fell ill. Yet you, a human janitor, managed to bring light to her face."
Rian lowered his head.
"I did nothing great, Majesty. I only blew bubbles." The Empress's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. Bubbles. Such a simple thing. She turned toward the wide window behind her. Outside, the twin sons of Tirith shone on the gardens below. "My daughter lives in fear and silence. Since her father became ill, she has spoken little to anyone. Her spirit fades, and no healer has been able to reach her. But last night she smiled. She laughed. Because of you." Rian did not know what to say. He stood still, feeling small in the vast chamber. The Empress turned back to him. "I wish you to continue seeing her." Rian's eyes widened. "Majesty, I am only a janitor. I have no right. I am not asking." The Empress said softly, "I am commanding." He swallowed hard. "As you wish, Majesty." The Empress studied him again. "You will meet her each evening after your cleaning duties. You will do what you did before. Make her smile again. Teach her something human. Something simple, but kind." Rian nodded slowly. "I will try my best." The Empress's voice softened for the first time. "You do not need to try. Just be who you were last night." She turned away and dismissed him with a gesture. The guard let him out. As he entered the elevator again, Rian let out a long breath. He had not been punished. In fact, he had been ordered to spend time with the princess. He could hardly believe it. That evening, after finishing his shift, he walked back to the royal garden. The gate opened for him this time. Inside, the air smelled of soft flowers and shining water. Princess Cyril was waiting by the fountain, wearing a light blue dress that shimmered like moonlight. She looked shy, but hopeful. "You came," she said. Rian smiled. "Your mother told me to." Cyril looked down. "I thought she would be angry." "She was not," Rian said. "She just wants you to be happy." Cyril's small hands held something behind her back. "I have been waiting all day. I wanted to show you something." She revealed a small bubble bottle. It looked strange and alien, made from crystal instead of plastic. With glowing liquid inside, "I asked the palace lab to make one," she said proudly. "They said the human design was interesting." Rian laughed softly. "You made alien bubbles?" Cyril nodded. "They glow in the dark." She dipped the wand and blew carefully. The bubble that floated out shone like a tiny star, leaving a trail of light behind it. Rian's eyes widened. "That is beautiful." The princess smiled, happy with his reaction. "Now it is your turn." He took the wand and blew one of his own. The human soap bubble floated beside the glowing alien one. They moved together through the air until they touched and merged into a larger sphere that shimmered in both colors. Cyril clapped her hands in delight. "It worked." Rian smiled. "Maybe that is how it should be. Human and Xylan together." Princess looked at him curiously. "Do you miss your home?" Rian nodded. "Every day, my daughter is there. Her name is Lena. She is small like you and likes to laugh at everything. I send her messages, but I cannot see her." Cyril's face softened. "That must be hard," it is Rian said. "But when I make bubbles, it feels like I am sending her my thoughts. Maybe one will reach her someday." Princess thought for a moment. "Then tonight, I will blow one too. Maybe mine will find her faster." She dipped the wand and blew the biggest bubble yet. It rose high above the garden, glowing like a star, before floating into the night sky. Rian looked up. "Thank you, Cyril. She will like that." They spent the rest of the evening talking about small things. Rian told her stories of Earth, of blue oceans and trees that turned orange in autumn. Cyril told him about Tirith, about flying fish that sang under the water and moons that never slept. When the night grew late, Cyril's eyes began to close. She yawned softly and sat near the fountain. "You should rest," Rian said gently. She shook her head. "Just one more story. Tell me how you made bubbles with your daughter." Rian smiled and sat beside her. He told her how Lena used to chase them in the park, how she would laugh when they landed on her nose. Cyril listened with her eyes half closed, the gentle sound of the fountain behind them. When she finally fell asleep, Rian covered her with her cloak and stood quietly. From a distance, the Empress watched once more through the garden cameras. She saw the human sitting quietly near her sleeping child. His eyes kind and patient. Her advisor entered the room and bowed. "Majesty, you have many meetings tomorrow. Shall I end the observation?" The Empress shook her head. "No, leave it. I wish to watch a little longer." Her gaze softened as she saw the princess breathe calmly. The first peaceful rest she had known in weeks. "Strange," she murmured. "We sent fleets to conquer humans once. And now, one of them heals my daughter better than all our healers." The next morning, Rian was assigned lighter cleaning work. The guards at the gate nodded at him now, with quiet respect. Word had spread among the staff that the Empress had spoken his name. Some of the alien workers whispered as he passed. But Rian ignored them. He only cared about seeing Cyril smile again that evening, that night. When he returned to the garden, Cyril ran to greet him with excitement. "Rian, look." She pointed to the sky. Hundreds of glowing bubbles floated high above the palace. "I asked the lab to make a generator. It sends bubbles into the sky every night. I named it the Bubble Fountain." Rian looked up, amazed. The bubbles shone like stars, drifting slowly toward the twin moons. "They are beautiful," he said. Cyril smiled. "Now, no one in the Empire will ever forget what you showed me." Rian felt a warmth in his chest. But deep down, he wondered what the Empress would think of this. A human janitor changing the royal gardens was not something that happened often. Far above, in the royal tower, the Empress stood by her window again. Looking at the glowing sky filled with light, she whispered softly, "Perhaps it is time we learn more about humans." The light from the bubbles reflected in her calm eyes as she turned away. Already planning something that would change not just her daughter's life, but Rian's and the Empire's future as well. Days passed and Rian's routine began to change. He still cleaned the halls and polished the silver floors of the embassy, but every evening, when his shift ended, he went to the royal garden. There Princess Cyril waited for him, often holding a bubble wand or some new human object she had asked the lab to recreate. Each evening was a little different. Sometimes they blew bubbles together. Sometimes Rian told her stories about Earth, stories of children flying kites, or chasing rain in the summer. Other times they talked about the stars, about how both their worlds looked at the same night sky even from far apart. At first, Rian thought the guards or staff might stop him, but no one did. In fact, the Empress had ordered everyone to allow him access. Still, Rian was careful to always bow when he entered the garden. One evening, when he arrived, Cyril was waiting with a small basket. "Rian, I made something for you," she said proudly. Inside the basket was a small pastry that looked like a glowing blue flower. "What is this?" Rian asked with surprise. "It is called Lunara bread. It is soft and sweet. It is a special dish from my people. I wanted you to try it." Rian took a bite. The bread melted in his mouth like honey and light. "This is amazing," he said. Cyril's eyes brightened. "I am glad you like it. I made it myself, though the cook helped me." "You are learning fast," Rian said with a smile. "You might be a chef soon," the princess laughed softly. "Maybe I will open a shop one day. The first royal bakery of Tirith." Rian laughed too. The sound of their voices filled the garden with warmth. The fountains glowed brighter. The evening wind carried the soft sound of music from the palace halls. For the first time, Cyril seemed like a normal child. She talked freely, asked questions, and even teased Rian gently. "You humans are strange," she said once. "You work so hard for so little. Why do you not ask for more?" Rian thought about it. Maybe because we know happiness does not always come from power or money. Sometimes it comes from small things, like a clean floor, or a friend who laughs with you. Cyril tilted her head. "That sounds simple." "It is simple," Rian said, "but not easy." The princess smiled, repeating his words softly, as if learning them. Simple, but not easy. That night, as Rian left, the Empress was again watching from the high tower. Her advisor stood beside her. "Majesty," he said, "some of the council members have noticed your attention toward the human. They are asking questions." The Empress remained calm. "Let them ask." "They feared the people might see this as a weakness," the advisor said. The Empress looked at him. "Is kindness weakness?" The advisor lowered his head. "No, Majesty. But it is rare among rulers." The Empress turned back toward the window. "Then perhaps it is time rulers remember what it means to be kind." The next morning, Rian was surprised when a message arrived on his small communicator. It was an official notice from the Empress herself. It said, "Report to the royal chamber after your shift. You will assist in an educational project." Rian was confused, but obeyed. After finishing his duties, he followed the guard into a large room filled with floating screens and glowing tablets. Cyril was there too, sitting at a desk, her feet barely touching the floor. When she saw Rian, she waved happily. "Rian, come. Mother says you will be my teacher today." Rian looked uncertain. "Teacher me?" The Empress stood nearby, calm and graceful. "Yes, Rian. My daughter wishes to learn more about human customs. You will teach her as you see fit. In return, you will be compensated fairly." Rian bowed. "I will do my best, Majesty." The Empress nodded. "Begin." Rian sat across from Cyril and thought for a moment. "All right, Cyril, let us start with something simple. Humans like to draw. We use colors to show what we feel. Do you know how to draw? Cyril nodded. A little. He handed her a pad and stylus. Then draw what makes you happy. The princess began to draw with glowing lines of blue light. Slowly, a picture took shape. It showed a garden, a fountain, and two figures blowing bubbles. Rian smiled. That is us. Sarah looked shy but pleased. Yes, you said we should draw what makes us happy. The Empress watched from behind, her eyes softening. She had not seen her daughter draw in years. Rian then drew something too. His drawing was simple, almost childish. A small girl standing in a field of green holding a bubble wand. This is Lena, he said quietly. Sarah looked at the picture. She looks happy. She was, Rian said. Before I had to leave Earth for work, I miss her every day. The princess studied the picture carefully. Then we should make something for her, she said. Something from both of us. She opened a small holographic panel and began to design something. With a few touches, she created an image of a glowing sphere with stars inside. This is for your daughter, she said. It is a light bubble. It will play her name when she holds it. Rian's eyes widened. That is incredible. I will send it through the embassy's message line, the Empress said. Your daughter will receive it on Earth in 3 days. Rian was speechless. Thank you, Majesty. She will be so happy. The Empress gave a small nod. It is a gift from my daughter to yours. That night, when Rian went back to his small room, he could not sleep. He kept thinking about how different his life had become. Just weeks ago, he was mopping floors and talking to himself. Now he was teaching a princess and speaking with an empress. He turned on his communicator and recorded a message for Lena. Sweetheart, have good news. You will receive a gift soon. It is from a princess. I will tell you more when we can talk. Remember to smile when you open it. The next few days went by quickly. The project continued. Rian taught Sorel about Earth's animals, its music, and its traditions. She was fascinated by the idea of oceans full of life and festivals where people danced under the stars. In return, Svello showed him the wonders of her world. Floating gardens that moved with the seasons, books made of living light, and songs sung by the stars themselves through resonance towers. Each day, their friendship grew stronger. The Empress watched quietly, never interrupting, but always observing. She began to see changes not only in her daughter, but also in Rian. He no longer looked like a tired worker. His eyes were brighter, his steps lighter. One evening, after Cyril's lesson, the Empress spoke to him privately. You have done well, Rian. My daughter has begun to speak with her tutors again. She eats better and sleeps peacefully. You have brought balance to her heart. Rian bowed. It is her own strength, Majesty. She only needed someone to listen. The Empress studied him carefully. You are humble. Most men would take pride in such praise. Rian smiled softly. Pride does not clean floors or heal sadness, Majesty. I only do what I can. For the first time, the Empress smiled fully. You are different from most humans I have met. I understand now why my daughter likes you. That night, Rian walked back to his quarters under the glowing towers of Tirith. The stars above looked close enough to touch. He thought of Lena and wondered if she had received the gift yet. 3 days later, the message arrived. It was a recording from Earth. Lena's small face appeared on the screen, smiling brightly. She was holding a glowing sphere that sang her name softly. Daddy, she said in the message, the light you sent is so pretty. The princess must be very kind. I love it. I miss you. Come home soon? Rian's eyes grew wet as he watched. Sorel stood beside him, smiling. She likes it, she said. She loves it, Rian replied. Thank you, Sorel. From that day on, the Empress began inviting Rian to small royal gatherings. She introduced him to other scholars and advisors as the man who brought peace to the princess's heart. Many looked surprised, but no one dared question the Empress's will. Rian remained humble, still cleaning during the day and teaching at night. But whispers spread through the embassy and beyond. Some said the Empress was testing him for something greater. Others believed she wished to show the empire that even a human could hold wisdom. Weeks passed, and Cyril's laughter became a familiar sound in the halls. Even the guards smiled when they heard her voice echoing through the corridors. Yet change was coming. One morning, the Empress received a message from the High Council. They wanted her and the princess to return to the capital world for the Emperor's health report. When Sarl heard the news, her smile faded. "Rian, we are leaving soon," she said softly. "Mother says we will go back to the main palace." Rian nodded slowly. "That is good. You will see your father, but I will not see you," Sarl said. "What will happen to you?" "I will still be here," Rian said kindly. "There will be floors to clean and halls to shine, and I will wait for your next visit." Cyril looked down, holding the bubble bottle tightly. "Then I will send you messages. Every day." "I will look forward to them," Rian said. The Empress entered the garden just then. She saw the sadness in her daughter's eyes and said, "Do not worry, my child. You will see him again soon. The stars are never too far apart." That evening, as the ship prepared for departure, the garden filled with glowing bubbles once more. Cyril and Rian stood side by side, watching them rise. When the last bubble floated upward, Cyril whispered, "This one carries my promise." Rian smiled. "Then I will wait for it to return." As the royal ship rose into the night sky, Rian stood silently beneath the falling light. The garden felt empty again, but inside him, something new had begun to grow. He did not know that his name had already reached the royal capital. The Empress had. The next morning, the Star Palace glowed with a faint gold light. The clouds around it shimmered like soft silk. The day had arrived for the Royal Council's judgment. Aaron stood near the lower gate, dressed in a plain gray uniform. He was not sure why he was told to stay close, but the guards had not stopped him. He had spent the whole night awake, thinking of Lyra, thinking of his son waiting in the small quarters he called home. He looked at his palms, rough and scarred from cleaning the shining halls of the alien ship. He never imagined that a man who scrubbed floors would one day stand before an alien empress. Yet here he was, his heart beating like a drum, inside the royal chamber. Princess Lyra stood beside her mother, the Empress. The tall windows poured light on the floor, forming patterns like falling stars. The Empress wore a silver crown that curved like the moon. Her gaze was calm, yet her presence filled the room with silent power. Around her sat alien nobles, with faces that shimmered faintly, their eyes bright and sharp. The chamber doors opened, and Aaron was guided in. His steps echoed softly. He bowed his head, unsure what to do. The Empress's voice came, smooth and deep. "You are the human janitor who comforted my daughter," she said, "and the one who entered my throne room without fear." Aaron swallowed. "Yes, Your Majesty. I did not mean to cause trouble. I only tried to help her." "She was scared," a few of the nobles whispered. One of them said something about humans being simple and weak. Another laughed quietly. Lyra looked angry, but her mother raised her hand to silence them. "You calmed my daughter with bubbles," the Empress said, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "That is something no one among my court ever thought of." Aaron nodded slowly. "Sometimes small things help more than grand words." The Empress leaned forward, studying him. "You speak with strange wisdom for a cleaner. Tell me, human, what makes you so calm when others fear us?" Aaron thought for a moment. "Maybe because I have a child. Fear doesn't help when a child cries. You need patience. You need to show them peace, even when the world feels heavy." Lyra's eyes softened. The Empress looked at him quietly, then said, "Your name is Aaron, yes? And your son?" "His name is Ryo," Aaron said gently. "He's still small." The Empress stood up slowly. "You cared for my daughter as if she were your own child. For that, you have my respect." Gasps filled the room. A human earning respect from the Empress was unheard of. But the Empress's tone changed as she added, "Still, your presence in the royal wing was against our law. Some among the council demand punishment." Aaron looked down, his hands tightening. He had known this might happen. "I understand, Your Majesty," he said. "If punishment is needed, I accept it. But please do not blame Lyra. She only needed someone to listen. The Empress looked at him for a long moment. You would take the blame to protect her? Yes, Aaron said simply. The Empress's expression softened again, though only slightly. You are strange, human. Many of your kind would beg for mercy. You ask only for her safety. Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling but clear. Mother, please. He saved me. I was afraid. Everyone around me acted like I was weak, but he didn't treat me that way. He made me laugh again. The Empress turned her gaze toward her daughter. Do you know what the court says about this? Yes, Lyra said. They say it's improper. They say he is nothing. But I say he is kind. And I will stand by that. The chamber went silent. The Empress looked between her daughter and the human. The light from the windows shifted, turning soft blue. Finally, the Empress spoke again. The council will not decide this matter. I will. Everyone bowed their heads. The Empress walked closer to Aaron, her silver robe brushing the floor. Human, if I allow you to stay among us, will you serve the court with honesty? Yes, Aaron said quickly. I will do whatever is needed. And if I ask you to teach my people what you taught my daughter? Aaron blinked. Teach? I am not a teacher, Your Majesty. The Empress smiled faintly. You already are. You taught her calm, patience, and laughter. You reminded her of something my court forgot, simplicity. Lyra's face lit up with hope. Very well, the Empress said. You will not be punished. Instead, you will remain in the royal care hall as guardian to the young princess. Aaron bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesty. The nobles murmured among themselves, but none dared speak against the Empress. Lyra stepped closer and whispered, I told you she would see, Aaron. When the council meeting ended, Aaron walked out into the open air of the palace balcony. The stars shimmered far above. Lyra joined him there. I thought I was finished, he said softly. You were brave, Lyra said. You spoke honestly. Mother respects that. Aaron looked at her. And you defended me. That took courage, too. For a moment, they both stood in quiet, the hum of the alien city far below. Ships moved like glowing insects through the sky. Lyra turned to him and asked, What is it like being a father? Aaron smiled. It's hard and beautiful at the same time. Every morning you wake up tired, but one smile from your child makes you forget all the pain. Lyra nodded slowly. I think I understand now why you did what you did. You care, even when it hurts. Later that evening, as Aaron returned to his quarters, 2 guards came to him. They brought a message sealed with the royal crest. It said that a new living space was being prepared for him and his son inside the inner ring of the palace. He was speechless. For the first time since he arrived on the alien world, he felt like he belonged somewhere when he reached his room. Rio ran to him, wrapping small arms around his legs. Papa, where did you go? I missed you. Aaron knelt and hugged him tightly. I missed you too, little one. Did the bubble princess get better? Rio asked with sleepy eyes. Aaron chuckled softly. Yes, she's better now. The next few days changed everything. Aaron was given a small position in the royal wing, officially titled Caretaker of Youth. He was responsible for creating peaceful spaces for the young members of the court. The Empress herself visited once, standing silently as Aaron taught a group of alien children how to make soap bubbles, the moment they floated in the air. The children gasped. The colors danced across their silver skin. Even the Empress smiled quietly before walking away. The palace began to whisper about the human magic. Some nobles mocked it. Others secretly brought their own children to watch. Lyra spent much of her time helping Aaron. She listened when he talked about Earth's simple joys rain, wind, trees, and laughter. She learned how humans found peace in small things, not just in power or beauty. One evening, as the suns of the alien world set, painting the sky with gold and purple, Aaron stood by the balcony again. Lyra came beside him, holding a small, glowing sphere, a crystal of memory from her world. She offered it to him. It holds images of moments we want to remember, she said. Would you like to keep one? Aaron took it carefully. I'll make one for Rio too, he said. He'll want to remember this. She smiled. You're different from anyone I've met, and you're wiser than most people I've known, he said. They both looked toward the horizon. The palace lights came alive one by one, and the sky filled with stars. But deep in the upper towers, the Empress stood watching again, her hands behind her back. The advisor beside her asked, "Do you truly trust this human?" The Empress did not answer for a long moment. Then she said, "Trust is a seed. It grows when you water it with small acts of kindness. He has done that without knowing. I will not stop it." The advisor bowed. "As you wish, Your Majesty." The Empress turned to the window, her gaze softening as she watched her daughter and the human talking under the twin moons in her heart. She knew this was only the beginning. Something was changing, not just in her daughter, but in the entire empire. For the first time in centuries, laughter had returned to the royal halls. And it came not from power, but from a janitor who blew bubbles in silence. The days in the royal palace passed quietly, yet something beautiful had begun to grow. Aaron had become a small but warm presence among the cold marble halls. He did not wear fine clothes, nor did he walk with pride like the alien nobles. But every child in the palace ran to him when he appeared. His pockets always carried soap, a small wand, and a smile. Even the guards had grown used to his simple ways. They no longer called him the janitor. Now they called him the calm one. Every morning, Aaron would walk with his son Ryo through the golden corridors. The alien children, once distant, would now greet Ryo shyly. They had never seen a child who laughed so freely. Lyra often joined them, her royal robes flowing as she moved through the courtyard. She was not the frightened girl who once hid in shadows. She walked with quiet strength, her eyes brighter than before. One morning, as the suns rose over the crystal towers, Lyra invited Aaron and Ryo to the royal garden. It was a vast place, filled with glowing flowers and floating petals that shimmered in the air. She smiled at Ryo and said, "Today, we will make a wish." Ryo's eyes lit up. "How do we do that?" Lyra pointed to the fountain in the center of the garden. "You hold the light water in your hands and think of what you want most. Then you let it go." Aaron watched as his son carefully cupped the glowing water. He closed his eyes tightly and whispered a wish. When he opened his hands, the droplets floated upward, turning into tiny stars. "What did you wish for?" Aaron asked softly. Ryo smiled. "For you to always be happy, Papa, and for the princess to smile every day." Lyra looked touched. She bent down and gently brushed Ryo's hair. "That is a kind wish, little one." The moment was peaceful, but the calm did not last long. Later that day, the royal alert lights flashed red across the palace walls. A fleet of unknown ships had entered the outer space of the alien empire. The alarm echoed through the halls. Guards ran to their stations. Aaron hurried to gather Ryo, holding his hand tightly. Lyra found them in the corridor. "It's the Outworld invaders," she said quickly. "They have broken through the outer shields." "They dangerous?" Aaron asked. "Yes," she said. "They attack colonies and take resources. We must reach the safe chamber." Before Aaron could respond, the palace shook. The floor trembled, and lights flickered. Ryo clung to his father's arm. "Stay close," Aaron said firmly. They ran through the hallways as guards hurried past. The Empress herself appeared near the council chamber, calm but commanding. "Get the civilians to safety," she ordered. When her gaze fell on Aaron and Lyra, she spoke sharply. "Lyra, take the human child below. Now." Aaron looked at her. "Your Majesty, let me help." She shook her head. "This is not your fight." But the attack hit again, stronger this time. A blast struck near the window, sending shards flying. Aaron shielded Ryo with his body. The Empress turned, surprised by his instinctive action. Lyra shouted, "Mother, we cannot leave him behind." The Empress hesitated only for a second, then said, "Go together. Protect the children." They hurried through narrow passages that led to the underground chambers. The sounds of battle echoed above. The alien guards' voices shouted orders through the communicator lines. When they reached the safe chamber, Lyra activated the shield field. The air shimmered as a blue light enclosed them. Ryo trembled, his small hands shaking. Aaron knelt and took out the small bubble wand from his pocket. Lyra stared in disbelief. "You are making bubbles now?" she asked. Aaron smiled faintly. It helps him stay calm. He dipped the wand in a cup of water that had spilled nearby and blew gently. The bubbles floated upward, glowing in the blue light of the shield. Ryo's eyes followed them, his fear slowly fading. Even Lyra's heartbeat slowed. The soft bubbles reflected the light like stars trapped in crystal. "See," Aaron said softly. "It means peace is still here." Then the communicator beeped. A voice came from above. "This is Commander Vera. The invaders have breached the lower sky level. They are sending boarding drones." Lyra looked alarmed. "That means they will reach this level soon." Aaron stood up. "Then we can't stay hidden. We have to help." "You can't fight them," Lyra said. "You are human." "I can protect," Aaron replied. "That's what fathers do." He looked at Ryo and smiled. "Stay with the princess, little one. No matter what happens, remember to keep smiling." Ryo's eyes filled with tears. "You'll come back, right?" "I promise," Aaron said. He picked up a fallen guard's small plasma baton and stepped toward the passage. Lyra followed him, holding a slender energy staff of her own. The corridors were filled with smoke. Strange metal drones crawled through the cracks, their red eyes glowing. Aaron swung the baton hard, striking one drone and sending sparks flying. Lyra fired bursts of energy from her staff. Cutting down others, they fought side by side, human and alien, against the machines. The Empress's voice came over the communicator. "All forces hold the inner palace. The shield core must not fall." They reached the control chamber where a glowing core pulsed with light. Several drones were trying to break through the defense gate. Aaron and Lyra joined the guards to stop them. The battle was fierce, and one blast hit near Aaron's leg, knocking him down. Lyra rushed to help him, but he pushed himself up again. "Don't stop," he said through clenched teeth. "They're almost through." With one last strike, the guards managed to destroy the final drone. Silence filled the chamber again. The lights steadied. When the Empress entered minutes later, her long robe trailing behind her, she saw Aaron standing among the wreckage. He was breathing hard but still holding the broken baton. The Empress walked closer, her eyes full of quiet pride. "You disobeyed my order," she said. "Yes, Your Majesty," Aaron answered. "But if I hadn't, your shield core would have been destroyed." The Empress smiled slightly. "You are either very brave or very foolish." "Maybe both," he said. Lyra came forward, her face glowing with relief. "He saved us all, Mother," the Empress nodded. "Indeed." And once again, a simple act of courage from a human changed what we believed. The crisis ended by dawn. The invaders were driven away by the combined fleets of the Empire. The palace was safe once more. When the first light of morning touched the towers, the Empress summoned her court again. Everyone expected a speech about war and victory, but she spoke instead about something else. "Power defends a nation," she said, "but compassion builds it." Today, we saw courage in an unexpected place. The human janitor, Aaron, stood beside my daughter and fought not for glory, but for others. The hall was silent. Every noble listened carefully. The Empress turned to Aaron. "You reminded us that even in the smallest heart, light can be found. For this I name you guardian of the royal heirs." Aaron froze. He looked at her in shock. "Your Majesty, you are not just anything," she said firmly. "You are proof that the stars still favor the humble." Lyra smiled proudly. Ryo, who stood beside his father, clapped his small hands. That evening, the palace held a quiet ceremony under the twin moons. Aaron stood in his new uniform, plain but honored. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes filled with warmth. The Empress herself placed a small emblem of silver on his chest, the mark of the royal guardian. When the ceremony ended, Lyra found Aaron near the balcony again. The stars stretched across the sky, endless and bright. "You have changed everything," she said softly. Aaron looked up. "I only did what felt right, sometimes," she said. "That is exactly what changes worlds."
Thanks.
"And you changed too, Lyra," you're not afraid anymore." She looked thoughtful. "Maybe because you showed me what true courage looks like." They stood together for a long moment, watching the horizon where the alien city lights faded into the stars. Below, Ryo ran around with a group of alien children, laughing as he blew bubbles that floated up toward the sky. The colors shimmered in the moonlight, reflecting both human and alien faces watching with quiet wonder. The Empress stood on the higher balcony, her gaze soft. "Let them play," she said to her advisor. "Let the sound of their laughter be the sound of a new age." So it was. In the days that followed, stories spread across the empire about the human who blew bubbles and calmed a princess. They said his kindness touched even the Empress's heart. Some laughed at the tale, some doubted it. But none could deny that something had changed in the royal halls. The human janitor was no longer just a worker from a far world. He had become a symbol of quiet strength, a reminder that even in the vastness of space, small acts of love could shine brighter than any star. And every night, as the stars glowed above the empire, Aaron would take his son to the balcony. He would dip his wand into soap and blow bubbles that drifted into the sky. Lyra would often join them, her laughter gentle and free, somewhere far above. The Empress would watch them again, her heart lighter than it had been in centuries. The war was over. Peace had returned, and the stars no longer felt so cold.